The Dolce & Gabbana fashion house has been the most popular Italian brand in the world for many years. Designers made a name for themselves in contrast, a combination of modesty and sexuality, defenselessness and audacity, feminine silhouettes and men's clothing elements. Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana have been faithful to these ideals for almost 40 years and do not intend to surrender their positions. Yes, they are reproached for vulgarity, sexism, racism, and homophobia. However, women around the world continue to lose their heads seeing their outfits, spending lots of money in Dolce & Gabbana boutiques, and wearing their favorite brand products like there is no tomorrow. How did these two Italians conquer the hearts of their customers? The answer is simple. In Dolce & Gabbana clothes, every woman feels like a queen, and this feeling is expensive. Fashion house Dolce & Gabbana grew out of a strong creative union of Italian fashion designers Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana. And although they came to the world of fashion in different ways, their aesthetic ideals coincided and were embodied in a generally successful brand. Domenico Dolce was born in 1958 in Sicily, in the suburbs of Palermo, in a poor family of a garment factory manager. It was a family business, and at the age of 6, the boy was already an apprentice to his father. He masterfully sewed complex elements of clothing, knew how to sew shoes, and for his success received at home the nickname Mozart of sewing. The family had strong traditional Sicilian values, and in accordance with them, at the age of 18, Dolce had to inherit a business. However, against the will of his father, the young man entered the university. But a year later, he dropped out and began to study at the School of Design. Having received a diploma, Dolce went to Milan to break his way into the fashion world. In a completely different way, the life of Stefano Gabbana, the illegitimate son of a popular Milan stylist, developed. The boy was born in 1962 in Milan, and since childhood did not need anything. He liked to draw and dress fashionably. He visited expensive boutiques with a pencil, painted, and bought tons of clothes. His father did not restrict him from doing any of it. The roads of two very different but equally gifted young people crossed in the early 1980s in one of the Milan ateliers, where both worked as assistants. At first, nothing foreshadowed fruitful cooperation. Dolce & Gabbana could not tolerate each other. The difference in origin, upbringing, and material wealth affected them greatly. However, gradually they found many points of intersection. The designers' united love for Sicily, the Baroque style and Italian films of the 1950s and 1960s. Both drew inspiration from the paintings of Fellini, Rossellini, Visconti, and admired the beauty of the films of that time, Gina Lollobrigida and Sophia Loren. Realizing that they are looking in the same direction, Dolce & Gabbana decided to create a common brand whose clothes will correspond to their common aesthetic ideals. In addition, fashion designers were connected by a long romantic relationship. Their romance ended in 2004, but this did not ruin the creative union. Initially, the approach to creating a brand was different among artists. Dolce, who had been accustomed to working in a workshop hard enough for two since childhood and knew the price of a tailor's work, took everything very seriously. In turn, Gabbana, who did not know the deprivation, perceived victories and failures easily and with humor. However, there were almost no failures, but the victories sprinkled like from the horn of abundance. In 1986, the fashion designers showed their first real woman collection in one of Milan's cafes. which immediately attracted the attention of the pre-saturated Milan public. And how? She stood out vividly against the background of the boring fashion of the 1980s, and most importantly, was distinguished by a new idea for that time. Fashion designers presented clothes for women of unfashionable parameters, but beautiful and confident in themselves. They said that the designers simply did not have money for professional fashion models, and they called friends to their first show. They really did not have money then. However, this had nothing to do with the idea of the Real Woman collection. According to the memoirs of Domenico Dolce, all free funds went to rent a cafe and prepare a collection. We didn't even have money for shoes and bags. We asked the models to bring their own from home. The curtain roll was played by the white sheet I brought from home. It was so short that the legs of the people behind it could be seen, recalled the fashion designer. Around 1990, the brand developed its recognizable signature. Dolce & Gabbana reached a compromise in their understanding of female beauty. Stefano and I have different tastes. Together we make a combination of our desires. Sometimes we make the collection more Dolce, sometimes more Gabbana. But in any case, each of our products is the result of our general agreement. In addition, we have common aesthetic ideals. For example, we are obsessed with female proportions, breasts, hips, explains Dolce. The perfect Dolce & Gabbana woman combines chastity, sexuality, and deep drama. She knows that she is beautiful and proudly carries her beauty. An important role in the style of the brand is played by the image of the so-called Sicilian widow, which is reflected in a large number of emphasized black and sexy elements: tight dresses, lace shawls, hats with large brims. At first, Dolce resisted this Sicilian aesthetic because he had been used to it since childhood and did not want to rely on it in his work. However, he realized that you would not run away from your roots. After that, fashion designers created truly legendary things in the style of Siciliana. One of these items of clothing was the famous black bustier dress, which created a stir in 1990. It elevated underwear to the rank of outerwear and gave rise to the so-called linen chic, the ancestor of which was the house of Dolce & Gabbana. Sometimes a woman does not understand how sexy she is until she puts on our clothes. Standing in front of the mirror in the dressing room, she suddenly realizes, "I have a beautiful body," say the fashion designers. Wearing a bustier dress, none of the brand's customers had any doubts about their own attractiveness. This allowed Dolce & Gabbana once and for all to conquer the female audience. This goes for everything, not just with dresses. One of the brand's first famous clients, actress and model Isabella Rossellini, recalled that she experienced the same feeling by trying on a simple white shirt. "The first thing from Dolce & Gabbana I wore was a white shirt. At first glance, it was strict and immaculate, but it was made in a way that visually my chest seemed to burst out of it." In 1993, linen chic made it around the world with the American singer Madonna, for which designers sewed 1,500 items of clothing and accessories in 2 months for the world tour. The corset became the central subject of this individual collection, and since then, in one form or another, it has been present at all shows of Dolce & Gabbana. Wear a corset. If you wear a corset, you immediately lose one size. In addition, it raises all your charms, and this is beautiful. It adjusts your body, noted the designers. In the world of Dolce & Gabbana, lingerie plays almost the most important role, which fashion designers consider the key to sexuality and the issue of respect for their bodies. When we dress a model for entrance, first of all, we give her a satin bra and lace. You will never see a woman from southern Italy without a bra. Never, assure the artists. Satin corsets, black stockings, lace fabrics, Dolce & Gabbana choose everything in order to emphasize the bends and shapes of the female body as much as possible, for which they repeatedly received lashings for hypertrophied sexuality and objectification of women. Although the artists themselves claim it is pointless to display a naked body, they much more like sexual and ironic details that seem to raise the veil of mystery. Even male elements of women's collections, which at one time introduced Dolce & Gabbana into fashion, are designed to emphasize femininity and not hide it. For example, the sensual style of a mobster is a white shirt with a suit in a strip, and the manner of cutting for women's trouser suits in the male style, which are recommended to be worn on a bare body. The first thing we have to think about is she wearing lace under this suit? Explain the fashion designers. In 1996, when the Dolce & Gabbana brand was already known to the whole world, it produced men's clothing, linen, perfumes and accessories, and also another high-profile collection was released, animal prints. The core of this line was the leopard flourish, which forever turned into the favorite hue of bright and confident women. For this, the classy audience also criticized the fashion designers and accused them of vulgarity. In response, Dolce & Gabbana answered philosophically, "Always choose freedom. Everyone should wear what makes him or her happy. Clothes affects everything, from a person's sense of humor to its perception of him or herself. Therefore, do not look for trends, look for what you like." The designers themselves also never left the search, and it turned out that their own interests lie far beyond the world of fashion. For example, they released a series of books about the history of their brand, participated in the design of several mobile phones, and even 2 Citroën car models. The salons of these cars are lined with luxury leather, using Swarovski crystals. Dolce & Gabbana even played a hand in releasing the premium Martini Gold Vermouth. Monica Bellucci, who they consider their favorite muse, appeared in the advertising campaign of the drink. According to designers, she attracts audiences with her femininity and strength. Now is the era of strong women, and in general, women are stronger than men. Monica Bellucci, Sophia Loren, you can't call them weak, can you? Designers say. A Dolce & Gabbana brand, which has several clothing lines and hundreds of boutiques around the world, has turned from a small workshop into a luxury fashion empire with billions of dollars in turnover over almost 40 years of its history. This is still one of the most forged brands in the fashion industry because it is one of the most popular and expensive, and women around the world, despite the new beauty standards, the trend towards moderation and new ethic, are ready to plunge into their favorite collections to feel seductive in chic corsets, bustier dresses, and sexy men's bodysuits on a naked body. And we understand them very well, don't we?